Hello, my name is Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Play with Curious Sunshine, where we talk about the transformative power of play. We talk about what it means to live life more playfully, how to approach life with a playful mindset, and I share stories about how I have used play to do the same. So please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone you think would find inspiration in doing so. So, today it's probably going to be a series, but we're going to start we're going to start in a digestible way for this topic. So, we're going to talk about why play is a bad word. How some people wince at the word play and shut down with the word play. And this is something that I've noticed, almost every time I talk about Curious Sunshine to someone who's new to the concept and has never heard of play being done in this way. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. I'm looking at my notes because there's a lot, and I want to make this short, which is relative. It's not going to be short. It's probably going to be like 10, 15 minutes. Fingers crossed. So play. The word play. So I do tons of networking. I do lots of, consultations where I talk to people about what I do with Curious Sunshine, what that means, why am I 10 toes down for this brand. And one of the things that I first noticed when I talk about Curious Sunshine is the response when I talk about the fact that it's a play-based wellness brand. And so through through my experience and kind of pattern recognition, I started noticing that when I mention the word play, I get three, 4 responses. So much so that I kind of started to play a game when I mention play to see what the response is. I'm like, I'm going to mention this and I want to see which category you kind of fall into when I mention the P word. So one is I mention play and they instantly lob it into the category of oh yeah, I play with my kids all the time, or oh yeah, I play with my students. We have plenty of time where we dive into play and I play through them. Right? I'm playful because of them. And they really, it's kind of not taking that ownership of our own inherent play. Also, there's, the next one is having zero, they're zero understanding. They're what do you mean play? Like theater? Like something kind of spicy? Like play? No. Sports? No, play theory. Play theory, not play therapy, not theater, but, really they're I don't understand what you mean by this word play. Tell me more. Which I do like when they ask, hey, tell me more about what this means. And I understand that because this is an unconventional topic, unconventional industry, and it's very niche, especially when you're looking at play within the realms of wellness. There's the third one, which is always kind of interesting. And this kind of happens when I work, especially with developing a project. I'll use play, and then people are I'm going to use another word instead, like joy or happiness. And it's so we don't want to use the word play, which is, still joy and happiness, but it encapsulates so much more. And I think, it's something that I just track. And there are some people, don't get me wrong, there are some people who are play, yes, got it. There are people who understand right away, they love it. And then, we can start talking about how amazing play is. But the other 3 that I mentioned are usually the main things. And they're just play. Okay, cute. Aw, play. And, as someone who researches play as much as I do, I'm like, yeah, that's, these are all interesting takes. But at the end of the day, I'm like, why are we like this? Why do we have this weird response to the word play? As something as fun and joyful, right? The meaning of play is something that incites joy and happiness. But when I mention it, especially with adults, right? Kids, not an issue. We're not even talking about them here. With adults, they're like, what's going on? You're mentioning this P word, and I need to categorize it in something that removes the ownership of me taking accountability for how I show up in life through playful ways. And so I think about this often. And it's not anything like bad, or if you're watching this video and you've fallen into these other three categories in the past, literally not holding any not holding any kind of negativity, not judging. I just think it's interesting to observe. And so, thinking about this, I'm like, why do we do this with the word play? And, there's questions that I've asked of like, is it because play is usually synonymous with not feeling productive, not being conducive to our serious adult duties, right? When we think of play, we think of not serious and not productive and not lucrative to whatever we're trying to establish in the matrix, right? Or maybe we think of play as like frivolous and meaningless and silly. Why are we talking about play when there's bills to pay and taxes to do and gas to put in our car? And so really looking at like, why do we just suddenly throw play to the wayside? And think that there's no seriousness in this, and we cast it off as something that we have, maybe if we have time for it, maybe if I want to, or something that's like in the past. Play, that's something I did as a kid. You don't need to do that now. And so I think it's, these are just questions, right? I don't have an answer, because I think every person's response to the word play and the meaning of play is going to be different, because this really, this tells a lot about our past, the lives that we lived, the narratives that we followed, and what permissions we grant ourselves in our current life, in our current stages of our life. And so thinking about this, because I love to analyze and I love to think deeply about things, but I was like, there has to be for something that's so important to our daily lives, there's always the deeper meaning. And so really looking at like, what's the deeper version? What is the deeper message that is being communicated when I mention play and I get this like kind of categorizing it for children only, or just plain simply not understanding it, or wanting to use a word that would be more comfortable for people to hear. And some of the reasons I thought of were like, we were told to stop playing at a young age, right? We've been told to like, that's not going to help us be successful. That's not going to bring us money, success, prestige, right? We can't play because we have to do these things to help uphold the household in the family. And so at an early age, we've been, some of us maybe have been shut down. Like, you cannot play. This is not helpful to upholding, the family well-being. Or also really looking at, not playing because, or I mean, even societally, right? We stop having recess after after elementary school. Sixth grade or whatever grade ends the elementary school, and you move into middle school, or second, whatever the name is. But once you move into middle school, no recess. You have lunch break, but there's no slides and swings. Why? Why do we not have playgrounds or tools to play from middle school to high school to even the workplace? It's like, maybe I don't want to just sit in this stale room with fluorescent lights. Maybe I want to go swing. Maybe I want to slide. Maybe I want to just play with some chalk, right? So we denounce the idea of play from an early age, and that's not even our fault. I blame that on, you know, the powers that be for now, of really taking away this ability that we have to play and saying we don't need it. But then also maybe this wasn't the case, and you were allowed to play or whatever. But maybe the ego comes into this too and says, like, what will people think of me if I start playing and being silly? This even is like, so I also emphasize, especially with my clients, I'm like, you can play when no one's around. And that even that's hard. It's like, oh, what are people going to think of me? It's like, you're by yourself. Can we be silly when no one's around? And if we can't, ask yourself why. That's all. Why can't you be silly even when no one's watching? Why do you feel embarrassed even when no one's around? Why is it hard for us to dip back into this playful side when there's no judgment? We are our biggest critic. We are our biggest, judgers. And so whenever there's such a harsh response to a word that is so light, I always know that there's something deep, there's something spiritual around this. And again, I'm just philosophizing. I don't have an answer. I'm just curious. Maybe you're curious too. So bringing this back to okay, we just talked about all these what ifs, right? But let's look at some truths around play. Play is extremely vital to our human experience. That's why we have the desire to play. Play is extremely vital to our well-being, which is why we are capable of playing through our entire lifespan. Lots of animals have the ability to play, and they do play just to get the lay of the land and learn how to move through life as their species. But humans, along with elephants and dolphins, have this desire and this want to play throughout our entire lifespan, from when we're born to when we die. And so really looking at, hey, it must be really important for us if we have this need. And really looking at the research with Dr. Stuart Brown, which I may have mentioned in the past, but if you have not seen his work, read his book, highly recommend, because he talks about how play is a biological need and a survival trait. Throughout the entire existence of humans existing, we still have the need to play, which means that there's something really important there. The fact that we need to play and have to play for our entire human existence means there's something really important that we are missing. So really just kind of paying attention to that. And also, this play is an invitation to make ourselves happy. Why are we not wanting to do actions that make us happy? I know that we don't find joy and satisfaction of just waking up, working, paying bills, and then going to bed, right? Where are we reclaiming our joy? And so really looking at how play is an invitation to make us happy, and really taking and reclaiming these ways that we can make us happy. And I see this also, I've been seeing this on social media, like people buying the toys that they were told they couldn't have, or maybe their parents couldn't afford it, and buying it at our adult age with our adult money and our adult free will, and really seeing people having this visceral reaction of like, hey, I really wanted this and now I have it, and there's tears. Because play is powerful. And when we reclaim play, we reclaim these parts of ourselves that we told we had to shut down. The only person that could shut it down for reals is ourselves. So why are we shutting down these opportunities to find joy and to find play and to be silly? And really looking at play as an action against the status quo. We things that are playful playgrounds are taken away from us at a young age for a reason. And it's not to benefit our growth. It's to benefit capitalism. Okay, well, be anti-capitalist and play, because this is also an act against the normal narrative, which I think we know by now, the status quo narrative supports colonialism and pain and money and power. And so Let's like be our own inner rebel. Let's be our own rebel and just play. And I think play is this act of rebellion, but play is also really good for us. So play is beneficial in all these different realms, which is why I push back on using the P word so hard. When people say, I don't know what it is, that's fine. Let's sit down and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what play means then, because it's really important, and I am 10 toes down on using the P word. I'm not going to stop using the word play because it is so important. So, my invitation to you is, what is your initial reaction to play? When maybe you heard it through me or communicated this through someone else, but what was your initial reaction to play? And has it changed? Looking at the truth behind that for within yourself. And can you honor your inner rebel and play anyways? So put it down in the chat, what your initial response is to play, how that has changed. So you can inspire others and really help to make the world a more playful place. So thank you for watching, and thank you for playing.